The discovery, the barren planet was covered in dust and rocks with nothing much to see. The skies were a dull gray, and the wind howled through the empty landscape. Commander Czar and his team of aliens landed their ship on this desolate world, expecting another routine mission. They were here to explore, to dig up ancient relics, and to catalog them for their records. But as they stepped out of their sleek, advanced spacecraft, they had no idea what they were about to find. The team spread out, their boots crunching on the rocky ground. They moved slowly, scanning the area with their devices. The planet was supposed to be lifeless, with nothing of value, but they were here just in case. Most of the time, these missions were boring. They would find old ruins, maybe some broken-down machines, and sometimes, if they were lucky, a few precious minerals. But today, something was different. "Commander, I think you should see this." One of the team members, a tall alien with sharp eyes, called out. Czar walked over, curious but not expecting much. He was an experienced commander, having led dozens of such missions. Usually, his team found nothing more than dust and bones. But as he approached, he saw something that made him stop in his tracks. Before him, half buried in the ground, was the nose of a massive ship. It was old, very old, and covered in layers of dirt and rust. The design was unlike anything he had seen before. Simple, almost crude by their standards, but there was something about it that caught his attention. "What is it?" Czar asked, though he could see well enough. "It's a ship," the tall alien replied, his voice tinged with disbelief. "An ancient one." Czar moved closer, brushing away the dirt with his gloved hand. The metal beneath was cold and rough, but as he touched it, he felt a strange sense of awe. The ship was huge, much larger than anything they had expected to find on this forgotten world. "How old do you think it is?" Czar asked, trying to keep the excitement out of his voice. "Centuries, maybe even millennia," another team member guessed, his voice muffled by the wind. The team worked quickly, uncovering more of the ship. As they dug, more of the fleet came into view. There were dozens of ships, all lined up as if ready for battle, but abandoned and left to rot in the sands of time. Some were in better shape than others, but all were clearly from the same era, built by the same hands. "This fleet, it's massive," Czar muttered, more to himself than anyone else. "Whoever built this, they must have been preparing for something big." The aliens continued their work, now fully invested in the discovery. The ships, though ancient, were still impressive in size and structure. The design was simple, yet there was an underlying strength to them. The aliens couldn't help but feel a mix of curiosity and superiority. "Looks like a primitive race built these," one of the younger aliens said with a smirk. "Probably thought they could take on the galaxy with these relics." The others laughed, including Czar. The idea of such old, outdated ships being a threat was amusing. Their own technology was far beyond anything this forgotten race could have imagined. Still, there was something unsettling about the fleet, something that Czar couldn't quite shake off. "Let's get inside one of them," Czar ordered. "I want to see what kind of technology they were working with." The team chose the largest ship, one that seemed to be the command vessel. It took some effort, but they managed to open the rusted hatch and step inside. The air was stale, filled with the scent of age and decay. Dust particles floated in the dim light of their lamps as they moved deeper into the ship. The interior was just as old and worn as the outside. The walls were lined with control panels, most of them dark and unresponsive. The floor creaked under their weight, and the ceiling was low, making them feel even more out of place. "Looks like they didn't get very far with this one," Czar said, inspecting one of the control panels. "It's a miracle this thing is still in one piece." As they explored further, they came across a room filled with what looked like star charts. The maps were faded, but they showed a detailed plan of the galaxy. Czar noticed that some of the stars were marked, but he couldn't understand why. "Commander, over here!" another team member called out from the back of the room. Czar walked over to find a large central console. Unlike the others, this one was still glowing faintly. The alien who had found it was already working on it, trying to access whatever information it might hold. "Can you get it working?" Czar asked, intrigued. "I think so," the alien replied, tapping away at the controls. The system is old, but it's responding. Let's see what secrets this ship has been hiding. The console flickered to life, displaying lines of text in a language they didn't recognize. The screen flashed as it began to process the data. The team gathered around, watching as the ancient ship revealed its first secret. The text was cryptic, but one word stood out. It was repeated several times, almost as if it was a name. The aliens didn't understand it, but they knew it was important. The word was humans. Zar frowned. Humans? Never heard of them. Must have been a weak species to rely on such outdated ships. The team agreed, but Zar couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something important. He decided to dig deeper, to find out more about these humans and why they had built such a large fleet in the middle of nowhere. As they continued their search, the wind outside picked up, howling louder than before. It was as if the planet itself was warning them, trying to tell them that they were about to uncover something far more significant than they had ever imagined. The hidden truth inside. The ancient ship, the atmosphere was thick with dust and mystery. The team of aliens, led by Commander Zar, was determined to uncover the secrets hidden within these rusty walls. They had already stumbled upon the name humans, but none of them knew what it meant. To them, it was just a word, insignificant and forgotten by time. The central console continued to flicker with life, its old systems slowly waking up after centuries of dormancy. Zar's team was excited but cautious. This ship was ancient, and who knew what kind of surprises it held. "Keep digging," Zar ordered, his eyes fixed on the console screen. "We need to find out who these humans were and what they were doing here." One of the team members, a skilled technician named Larn, was working tirelessly to decode the strange symbols and messages on the console. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, trying to piece together the puzzle. The language was unlike anything they had encountered before, but Larn was determined. "This is going to take some time, Commander," Larn said, not looking up from his work. "The encryption is complex and the system is old. But I'm getting closer." Zar nodded, though he was growing impatient. Time was precious and he wanted answers. The rest of the team continued to explore the ship, searching for anything that might give them a clue about the builders of this fleet. In one of the side rooms, a team member named Yira found a small, hidden compartment. It was barely noticeable, tucked away behind a panel in the wall. With a gentle push, the panel slid open, revealing a collection of old data disks. "Commander, I found something!" Yira called out, holding up one of the disks. Zar quickly joined her, his curiosity piqued. "What is it?" "Data storage, I think," Yira replied, handing the disk to Zar. "It looks ancient, but it might have some useful information." "Let's see if we can access it," Zar said, taking the disk back to Larn at the central console. Larn examined the disk, his eyes lighting up with interest. "This might be the key we need," he said. He carefully inserted the disk into the console, and the screen lit up with new data. The symbols on the screen began to shift, rearranging themselves into something more understandable. It was still strange, but now it was starting to make sense. "This is it," Larn said, his voice filled with excitement. "This disk holds a lot of information. We're about to learn everything these humans were planning." The team gathered around the console, eager to see what would unfold. The first images that appeared were blueprints, detailed designs of the ships they were standing in. The ships were indeed old, but they were incredibly advanced for their time. The aliens realized that they had underestimated the creators of this fleet. "These ships were designed for war," Zar said, studying the blueprints. But not just any war. They were preparing for something big, something they knew they might not survive. As they delved deeper into the data, they uncovered more about the humans. The records showed that the humans were once a thriving civilization, known for their ingenuity and determination. They had faced countless challenges and had always found a way to survive. But then, something changed. The records became darker, filled with warnings and desperate plans. The humans had learned of a great threat, something that was coming for them. They knew they couldn't fight it alone, so they built this fleet as a last line of defense. This fleet was their last hope, Zar murmured, his voice filled with a newfound respect for the humans. They knew they were outmatched, but they refused to go down without a fight. The more they learned, the more they realized just how wrong they had been about the humans. These ships were not the relics of a primitive race. They were the remnants of a once great civilization that had been pushed to the brink of extinction. "We need to find out what happened to them," Zar said, his mind racing. If they built this fleet, they must have been preparing for something. But what was it? And why did they fail? Larn continued to decode the data, his eyes glued to the screen. He was getting closer to unlocking the full story, but there was still so much they didn't know. "Commander, look at this," Larn said, pointing to a section of the screen. Zar leaned in, his eyes narrowing as he read the text. It was a warning, written by the last of the human commanders. The message was clear, the threat was real, and it was coming for them. The humans had fought bravely, but in the end, they were overwhelmed. But what was the threat? Zar asked, his voice tense. And why did the humans lose? "I'm still working on that," Larn replied, his fingers moving quickly over the controls. But whatever it was powerful enough to bring down an entire civilization. The room fell silent as the weight of their discovery sank in. The aliens had come here expecting to find relics of a forgotten race, but instead, they had uncovered the tragic end of a once powerful species. "Keep searching," Zar ordered, breaking the silence. "We need to know everything. If there's even a chance that this threat is still out there, we have to be prepared." The team continued their work, digging deeper into the data, hoping to find the answers they needed. But as they uncovered more about the humans, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The ship, once cold and lifeless, now seemed to pulse with a strange energy, as if it were alive and aware of their presence. Zar tried to push the unease aside, focusing on the task at hand. But deep down, he knew that they were getting close to something big, something that might change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. And as they continued their search, the truth began to reveal itself, piece by piece, word by word. The humans were not weak, not by any measure. They were warriors, builders, and survivors. But in the end, even they had fallen to a force they couldn't defeat. The hidden truth was coming to light, and with it, a new understanding of what it meant to be human. The surprise, the ancient ship seemed to come alive as Zar and his team delved deeper into its secrets. The further they explored, the more they realized how much they had underestimated the humans. What had once seemed like a simple discovery was turning into something much more complex and potentially dangerous. Commander Zar couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over him. The ship, which had been silent for centuries, now hummed with a low, almost imperceptible energy. It was as if the vessel itself was reacting to their presence, as if it was aware that strangers were walking its corridors. "Any luck with that data?" Zar asked, glancing over at Larn, who was still working on the central console. Larn nodded, his eyes never leaving the screen. "I've managed to unlock more files, but there's something strange about the way this system is responding. It's almost like it's resisting me." "Resisting?" Zar frowned. "How can an old ship like this resist anything?" "I don't know, Commander," Larn admitted, a hint of frustration in his voice. "But this ship is more advanced than we thought. It's possible that the humans installed some kind of security measures even back then." Zar pondered this for a moment. The more they uncovered about the humans, the more it seemed that they were not to be underestimated. But there was still so much they didn't know, so much that remained hidden. "Keep working," Zar ordered. "We need to find out everything we can." The rest of the team continued their exploration, moving deeper into the ship. The corridors were narrow, and the walls seemed to close in around them. Dust floated in the dim light of their lamps, creating eerie patterns in the air. Every now and then they would come across a door or a hatch, some of which were locked, while others opened easily to reveal more of the ship's secrets. One of the team members, a young and eager alien named Rill, was the first to find something truly surprising. He had wandered off on his own, curious to see what lay beyond the main corridors. His footsteps echoed in the silence as he moved through a narrow passageway, his lamp casting long shadows on the walls. As Rill turned a corner, he spotted a large door at the end of the passage. It was different from the others. heavier, more fortified. His curiosity got the better of him and he approached it, wondering what could be behind such a door. With a deep breath, Real pressed a button on the control panel next to the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a loud creak, the door slowly slid open. Cold air rushed out, carrying with it the scent of metal and something else, something Real couldn't quite place. Inside was a large chamber, dark and silent. Real stepped inside cautiously, his lamp sweeping over the space. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. The chamber was filled with strange, pod-like structures, each one connected to the ship's systems by thick cables. They were arranged in neat rows, and there were dozens of them, perhaps even hundreds. Real couldn't tell what they were for, but they seemed important. "Commander Zar, you need to see this," Real called out, his voice tinged with both excitement and unease. Zar arrived quickly, followed by the rest of the team. As they stepped into the chamber, they too were struck by the sight of the strange pods. "What are these?" Zar asked, moving closer to one of the pods. It was cold to the touch, and a faint light pulsed inside. "I'm not sure," Larn said, examining one of the control panels connected to the pods. "But whatever they are, they're still active." Zar felt a shiver run down his spine. "Active? After all this time?" Larn nodded. "Yes. The systems are old, but they're still functioning. These pods are waiting for something." The team exchanged uneasy glances. They had come expecting to find nothing more than relics, but now they were faced with something far more mysterious. Zar's mind raced as he tried to make sense of what they had found. "Larn, can you access the data on these pods? We need to know what they're for." Larn set to work, his fingers flying over the controls. The rest of the team watched in tense silence as he attempted to unlock the information. After a few moments, the screen flickered to life, displaying more of the strange human language. But this time the text was different. It was a log, detailing the purpose of the pods and what they contained. As Larn translated the text, his eyes widened in disbelief. "Commander, these pods, they're cryogenic chambers." Zar's heart skipped a beat. "Cryogenic? You mean—" "Yes," Larn confirmed. "There are people inside these pods, humans. They're still alive, in suspended animation." The room fell silent as the weight of this revelation settled over them. The team had expected to find nothing more than the remnants of a long-dead civilization, but now they were standing in a room full of survivors, humans who had been asleep for centuries. But why? One of the team members asked, breaking the silence. Why would they put themselves in cryo-sleep? It must have been part of their plan, Zar speculated. Maybe they knew they couldn't win the war, so they put their best and brightest in these chambers, hoping to survive until the threat was gone. Larn nodded in agreement. That makes sense. These humans must have been important. Leaders, scientists, maybe even soldiers. They were meant to rebuild their civilization once it was safe. But what happened to them? Zar wondered aloud. Why didn't they wake up? And what was the threat they were so afraid of? Before anyone could answer, the chamber suddenly shuddered. The lights flickered and the hum of the ship grew louder. The team looked around, alarmed, as the ship seemed to react to their presence. "Commander, something's happening!" Larn shouted, as the control panel in front of him began to display a warning in bright, flashing letters. Zar's mind raced. Had they triggered something? Had the ship's ancient systems recognized them as a threat? Or was this some kind of automated defense mechanism set to activate after all these years? "Everyone, back to the central console," Zar ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. "We need to find out what's going on." The team rushed out of the chamber, leaving the mysterious pods behind. As they hurried down the corridors, the ship's lights continued to flicker, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The hum grew louder, almost like a heartbeat, echoing through the ship. Back at the central console, Larn quickly accessed the ship's systems, his hands moving faster than ever. The screen displayed a series of warnings, but Larn was able to bypass them, finally revealing the ship's core programming. "Commander," "It's the ship," Larn said, his voice filled with urgency. "It's waking up. The humans must have set it to activate if anyone ever found them." Zar stared at the screen, realizing the gravity of the situation. The ancient ship with all its hidden secrets was coming back to life, and whatever the humans had planned, it was about to unfold, whether they were ready or not. The human connection, the central console glowed with an intense light, illuminating the worried faces of Czar and his team. The ancient ship, which had been dormant for centuries, was now coming alive, responding to their presence in ways they hadn't anticipated. "Larn, what's happening?" Czar asked, his voice tight with urgency. Larn, his fingers flying over the controls, tried to make sense of the data streaming across the screen. "The ship's systems are reactivating, Commander. It's as if it recognizes us. Or maybe it's recognizing something else." "Something else?" Czar frowned, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" Larn hesitated before answering. "There's something strange in the data, something I can't quite explain. It's almost like the ship is communicating with us." The rest of the team exchanged uneasy glances. They had expected to find relics of an ancient civilization, not an active connection to a forgotten past. "Commander," Rill said, stepping forward, "could it be that the ship is reacting to the humans still in those cryogenic chambers? Maybe they're somehow linked to the ship's systems." Czar considered this. The idea was both intriguing and terrifying. It's possible. The humans were far more advanced than we gave them credit for. If they designed this ship to protect its crew, it might be reacting to our presence as a potential threat. "But we're not here to harm them," Larn interjected. "We're just explorers trying to understand what happened here." "That's true," Czar said, "but the ship doesn't know that. To it, we're just intruders." The hum of the ship grew louder, almost as if it was listening to their conversation. The lights flickered, and the floor beneath them vibrated with a low, steady pulse. It was a reminder that they were not alone on this ancient vessel. "We need to find a way to communicate with the ship," Czar decided. "If we can show it that we mean no harm, maybe we can avoid whatever it's preparing to do. But how do we communicate with a machine that's been dormant for centuries?" Rill asked, his voice tinged with doubt. Larn thought for a moment, then his eyes lit up with an idea. "Commander, I think I know how. The ship's systems are based on human technology, right? If we can find a way to interface with it using the human language, we might be able to send a message." Czar nodded. "Do it! But be careful. We don't know how the ship will react." Larn quickly set to work, accessing the ship's communication systems. The console beeped and whirred as he navigated through layers of ancient code, trying to find a way to establish a link. As Larn worked, the rest of the team remained on high alert. The ship was a maze of corridors and chambers, and they couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching them. The ancient walls seemed to pulse with a life of their own, reacting to their every move. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Larn managed to establish a connection. "I've got it!" he exclaimed. "I found a way to send a message using the ship's original programming." Czar leaned over the console, studying the screen. "What should we say?" "We need to keep it simple," Larn advised. "We should tell the ship that we're here as friends, not enemies. That we're here to learn, not to destroy." Czar agreed. "Do it." Larn carefully typed out a message in the human language, using the knowledge they had gathered from the ship's data. It was a simple message, but one that carried a powerful meaning. "We come in peace. We seek knowledge. We are not your enemies." He pressed the send button, and the message was transmitted through the ship's systems. For a moment, nothing happened. The ship remained silent, the hum of its systems still vibrating through the walls. Then, slowly, the lights around them began to change. The once harsh, flickering lights softened, becoming a warm, steady glow. The hum of the ship grew quieter, almost as if it was calming down. "It's working," Larn said, relief evident in his voice. "The ship is responding positively." Czar let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "Good. But we're not out of the woods yet. We need to find out more about these humans and why they're here." As Larn continued to communicate with the ship, the rest of the team began exploring the surrounding chambers, looking for more clues. They discovered rooms filled with strange devices and equipment, all of which seemed far beyond their understanding. It was clear that the humans who built this ship were geniuses, capable of creating technology that could stand the test of time. In one of the chambers, Ril found something that caught his attention. It was a small handheld device covered in dust but still intact. Curious, he wiped it clean and examined it closely. The device had a screen and several buttons, but its purpose was unclear. "Commander, take a look at this," Ril called out. Zar walked over and took the device from Ril's hands. He studied it for a moment, then handed it to Larn. "Any idea what this is?" Larn examined the device, pressing a few buttons to see if it would power on. To his surprise, the screen flickered to life, displaying a series of symbols in the human language. "It's a communication device," Larn realized. "But it's not just for talking. It's also a data storage unit. There might be information on here that could help us understand more about the humans and their connection to this ship." Zar's interest was piqued. "Can you access the data?" "I'll try," Larn said, focusing on the device. He connected it to the ship's systems, hoping to unlock its secrets. As the data began to download, Larn and Zar watched the screen intently. The symbols slowly translated into their language, revealing logs, messages, and even video recordings from the ship's crew. One of the first entries was from the ship's captain, a human with a stern but compassionate face. His message was clear. "To whoever finds this ship, know that we were the last hope for our people. We built this vessel to escape the destruction of our world and to preserve our knowledge for future generations. We placed our best and brightest in cryo-sleep, hoping that one day they would awaken to rebuild our civilization." Zar and Larn exchanged a glance. The humans had been more than just survivors. They had been protectors of their heritage, guardians of a lost world. As they continued to explore the data, they realized that the humans had left more than just a ship behind. They had left a legacy, a connection that spanned the stars, linking the past to the present in ways Zar and his team had never imagined. And now, with the ship's systems fully awakened, that connection was stronger than ever. The ancient vessel, once thought to be nothing more than a relic, had become a bridge between two civilizations, and Zar knew that their journey was far from over. The real challenge was just beginning. The awakening. The ancient ship thrummed with energy, its systems humming louder as the team worked tirelessly. Zar and his crew had made significant progress, but the full implications of their discovery were still unfolding. Larn continued to sift through the data from the old communication device, revealing more details about the humans' plans and technology. The ship's once dormant systems were now fully operational, responding to their every command. "Commander, the ship's core is starting to power up," Larn reported, his voice filled with a mix of awe and concern. "We're getting readings that suggest it's preparing for a full reawakening." Zar's eyes widened. "A full reawakening? What does that mean for us?" "It means," Larn explained, "that the ship is preparing to fully activate all its systems. The cryogenic pods are already operational, and it looks like the ship's crew is starting to come back online." Zar glanced at the central chamber where the cryogenic pods were stored. The lights around the pods flickered to life, and the air was filled with a low, rhythmic hum. The once cold, lifeless chambers now seemed to pulse with a strange energy. As the team watched, the pods began to hiss and whir, the seals retracting slowly. Inside, the suspended humans stirred for the first time in centuries. The sight was both thrilling and unsettling. Each pod opened with a soft whoosh, revealing humans in deep sleep, their faces peaceful and serene. Ril's eyes were wide with amazement. "They're waking up! This is incredible!" Zar nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "We need to be ready. We don't know how they'll react to us. We should prepare to make contact carefully." The ship's lights brightened, casting a warm glow over the awakening crew. It was a moment of profound significance, a link between past and present, a chance for both civilizations to learn from each other. As the humans began to emerge from their pods, stretching and blinking in the unfamiliar light, Zar knew that their journey had taken a new turn. The real story was only just beginning. The battle begins. The ship's corridors were filled with a soft, buzzing noise as the humans began to wake from their long sleep. The once silent chambers were now alive with movement and murmurs. Czar and his team stood at a cautious distance, observing the awakening crew with a mix of awe and apprehension. Commander Czar watched as the first group of humans emerged from their cryogenic pods. Their faces, though aged by time, were still strong and determined. The humans looked around, taking in their surroundings with a blend of curiosity and wariness. "Be ready," Czar instructed his team. "We don't know what they might do. They could be disoriented or scared." Larn nodded, keeping a close eye on the console that monitored the ship's systems. The screens displayed a series of alerts and messages from the ship's central computer detailing the status of the awakening process. One of the humans, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a commanding presence, stepped forward. Her gaze swept over Czar's team, clearly assessing the situation. She approached Czar, her movements deliberate and measured. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the disorientation from her long sleep. "I am Commander Czar," he replied, trying to keep his tone calm and respectful. "We are explorers who found your ship and activated it. We mean no harm." The woman studied him for a moment before speaking again. "I am Captain Arya. We were in cryogenic sleep for a reason." "What has happened? Why are we awake?" "We found your ship and woke you up," Czar explained. "The ship's systems were dormant until we discovered it. We didn't know that you were still alive." Captain Arya's eyes narrowed as she processed the information. "And what about the rest of our crew? Are they awake as well?" Czar gestured toward the pods. "They are waking up now. We were able to stabilize the ship's systems, but we're still figuring out what's going on." Arya's face softened slightly as she looked at her fellow crew members stirring from their sleep. "Thank you for reviving us," she said. "But we need to understand why we were put into cryosleep and what has happened since." As Arya spoke, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. The lights flickered, and the hum of the ship grew louder, creating an atmosphere of urgency and tension. "Commander, we have a problem," Larn called out from the central console. "There's a major breach in the ship's security systems. It looks like something has activated an old defense mechanism." The ship shook with a low rumble, and the sound of heavy machinery coming online echoed through the corridors. Czar and his team quickly moved to the central console, where Larn was trying to assess the situation. "We need to act fast," Czar said. "If there's an active defense mechanism, it could be dangerous." Captain Arya stepped forward, her face a mask of determination. "We've faced threats before. We can help you, but we need to know how to operate the ship's systems." "Understood," Czar replied. "We'll need to work together. I'll provide you with what we know, and we'll try to shut down the defense systems." The team moved quickly, with Captain Arya and her crew working alongside Czar's team to access the ship's control panels and override the defense mechanisms. The ship's corridors were filled with a chaotic mix of flashing lights and warning sirens as they raced against time. Larn focused on the central console, trying to pinpoint the source of the security breach. The screen displayed a series of codes and commands, which he began to decode. "The defense systems are designed to protect the ship from intruders," he explained. "We need to disable them before they cause any more damage." Captain Arya nodded, her expression grim. "We'll need to access the ship's mainframe to override the systems. It's going to be challenging, but we can do it." With a clear plan in mind, the combined team worked tirelessly to gain control of the ship's systems. Czar and Arya coordinated their efforts, making sure that both groups were aligned in their goals. As they worked, the ship's defense mechanisms continued to activate and deactivate in response to their commands. Suddenly, a burst of energy surged through the ship, causing the lights to flicker violently. The defense systems had become more aggressive, and the ship shook with a series of heavy impacts. "We're running out of time," Larn shouted. "We need to get this under control before the ship's core systems fail." Captain Arya's face was set in a determined scowl. "Keep working on the mainframe. We'll handle the rest." The crew members, now fully awake and alert, moved quickly to assist. They used their knowledge of the ship's systems to help Czar's team navigate the complex network of controls and overrides. The combined effort was intense, with everyone focused on the task at hand. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of frantic work, the alarms began to subside. The lights stabilized, and the ship's systems slowly returned to normal. The defense mechanisms had been successfully deactivated, and the immediate threat was contained. Zar let out a sigh of relief as he watched the ship's systems stabilize. We did it. The defense systems are offline. Captain Arya approached Zar, her expression one of cautious relief. Thank you for your help. We still have a lot to learn about what happened while we were asleep, but this is a good start. Zar nodded. We'll need to work together to understand everything and ensure that the ship remains secure. The ship's corridors were now quiet once more, the chaos of the battle behind them. The humans, though still adjusting to their new reality, were ready to face whatever came next. As the team began to regroup and plan their next steps, Zar felt a renewed sense of purpose. The battle had been only the beginning, and the journey ahead would require all of their combined strength and knowledge. The awakening of the humans marked a new chapter in their exploration, one filled with both promise and uncertainty. The ship was finally calm. The alarms had stopped blaring, and the lights had returned to their steady glow. Zar and Captain Arya stood in the control room, both exhausted but relieved. The battle with the ship's defense systems had been intense, but they had managed to bring things under control. Arya took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the now peaceful room. I want to thank you and your team for your help. We wouldn't have made it without you. Zar nodded, acknowledging her gratitude. We're glad we could assist. Your people were in serious danger, and it was important to work together. Arya's face softened with genuine respect. I've seen how much you and your team have done for us. It's clear you're not just explorers. You're brave and dedicated. The compliment took Zar by surprise. He had expected the humans to be wary of them, but Arya's words showed a new level of mutual respect. We're just doing our job, but I appreciate the recognition. Arya smiled, a sense of camaraderie developing between them. It's more than that. We've faced many challenges, but this is different. We've been asleep for so long, and yet you and your team were willing to help us without hesitation. Zar glanced around at the ship's crew, who were now working to repair and stabilize the ship's systems. Their cooperation was a clear sign of the respect they had for one another. We're in this together now. We need to understand what happened and how to move forward. Arya agreed. Yes, and we need to make sure that the ship is safe and secure for everyone on board.